Hey everyone, and welcome to the 2020-2021 State of the Senate Address. I'm President Stephen Codur, representing the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. And today with me is all of our vice presidents from the Student Senate, who will be giving updates on the actions that they've been taking to help promote our organization and some of the events that have been going on. The Student Senate has really had to adapt over the year, just like the students have. Students had to learn how to overcome, new barriers to their education. Technology was a huge issue that wasn't as big before the pandemic. The online environment was something that we all had to adapt to, moving everything online. And the Student Senate was there to adapt with our students, to be able to better represent them, to be able to help try and get as much resources into the hands of these students as they possibly could. So I want to give you a brief overview of some of the things that we did over the course of the year to best help our students through the 2020-2021 year. I want to focus on three words, and that was responsive. The SSCCC was responsive. They were representative. We were trying to represent the students the best way possible. And we were there to get resources into the hands of these students. So those are the three that I want to talk about. So first off, um, responsive. As I said, the Student Senate had to adapt over the course of the year, but we were responsive to many of the pressures that affected our California community college students and our system. At the beginning of the at the beginning of the year, with in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, there was a huge call for racial equity, and the Student Senate really pioneered that movement within our system. We held numerous town halls, really to allow the students to come and speak truth and be able to reiterate to us what it was that they wanted to see within their system to help them be successful. And over the course of those town halls, we formed uh, an anti-racism student plan of action, which was there to address these issues. Faculty diversity, students on hiring committees, a look at curriculum. Getting more diversity of faculty in other areas other than ethnic studies. In all of the pathways, peer mentor support, and a lot of different issues. And the chancellor's office and a lot of our system partners were very open to our report and started to put those into the DEI work that we were doing, from the top down. So that was huge, being able to respond to those calls for racial equity within our system. We were also there to support our undocumented students with the SCVP modifications that were coming down from the previous administration. So we signed on to an injunction to be able to stop those. So that way our students could still study here in the States. We were calling for more funding, for COVID funding for our students and emergency grants and things of that nature. The COVID-19 block grant to be able to um, fund mental health resources, because our students were saying that they needed more mental health resources because the pandemic was just weighing on them. We called for changes in police curriculum, and now there's a police task force that myself and another student is sitting on to look at what are we doing as far as policing on our campuses, and what does that look like, and how can we change that to better serve our students. And we participated in responding to a lot of other requests. You can see within the report that's linked on our website all the things that we did. The Student Senate was there to meet the needs of the students as they arose, and I think that we did that very effectively this year. We also were representative, or we provided representation for the students. There are many different external committees that our board of directors and other student leaders sat on to best represent our students. We sat on the consultation council. We shared reports to the board of governors. We provided comments for the California Student Aid Commission in trying to fix financial aid, and a lot of our participatory governance committees. And the students participated on panels. We provided op-eds for newsletters and for journals. and really tried to represent the students in the best way possible, because we have that student experience, right? We're able to provide to the outside world what the experience of a student is, and what that means to us. And it's very important that we get that perspective to the chancellor's office, to our system partners, to onlookers looking on at the California Community College system, so that they know how best to serve our students. We participated in a lot of different workshops and panels for our system partners. We participated in the Chancellor's Office system webinars. There's still a few more coming up before the end of the term. We participated during legislative hearings. We provided testimony during those legislative hearings, and a lot of different other venues, and you can check those out also on our website. And last but not least, resources. We tried to get the resources into the hands of our student leaders, not only monetary resources, but resources for advocacy. Our regions were putting out newsletters to help keep students involved. We participated in, or we promoted webinars to help students with, their 9+1 rights, or how to get involved with the SSCCC. Our professional development, our General Assembly had some great breakout sessions that we made available to our students through our YouTube channel and through our website. I definitely encourage all the students to check out that YouTube channel. It has some great resources for you to use, now and in the coming years. And it really provides that year-round training, including, how to prepare your agendas, how to abide by Brown Act, how to use parliamentary procedure. And like I said earlier, the 9+1 rights, your role in participatory governance, and what that looks like. But the Student Senate was here over the course of this year, really adapting to, the new environment that we had to work with. And I want to pass it off to my vice presidents on this call, who will be able to, give you a little bit more in depth of, what we did in our regions, what we did in the legislative aspect with our finances, with the onset of the $2 SRF. What are we going to do with that money, and how can we put that? How can we make that money work for our students by providing them more scholarships and bringing on more staff to be able to make our organization more professional and get us into these venues where we can really promote the student voice. So first off, I'm going to pass it off to Vice President Katherine Squire, who will give us our first update.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katherine Squire, and I've had the privilege of serving as the Vice President of the SSCCC this year. As for my update as the Vice President, I've had the privilege to work with our DEI subcommittee, as well as be the representative to the DEI work group with the Chancellor's Office and other system partners. This year has been pivotal in advancing racial equity in our system, especially in the background of the murder of George Floyd and countless other Black lives, the discrimination that our international students have encountered, DACA, and the most recent rise in hate crimes against our Asian community. There have been certainly a number of obstacles we've had to face, but there have also been a number of victories amongst these. In our first half of the year, we adopted a DEI statement and Black Lives Matter resolution, which we have since encouraged our colleges to adopt similar statements. We released an anti-racism student plan of action in August to help all our college administrators, faculty, and students work together to implement DEI work on their campuses. This plan included several recommendations, including diversifying curriculum to truly reflect our student population, destigmatizing the student grievance process, getting students involved in professional development, and putting students on hiring committees. We also received a legal opinion from the Chancellor's Office that affirms that students can legally sit on hiring committees, although the college must take the initiative to place students on committees. We have since worked with our partners to create a list of formal and informal practices for placing students that can serve as guidance to our colleges. We have continued to recognize that we need to create avenues to listen to our students. This year, we had a town hall to hear of the experiences of our students of color, a different town hall in which we partnered with system partners to denounce racism and reaffirm our commitment to this work, and which resulted in a DEI compact. We also had a town hall to listen to the experiences of our deaf and hard of hearing students, and we soon look forward to connecting with our Asian students amongst the current level of hate our Asian community community is experiencing. We still obviously have ways to go, and this work is continuous, meaning we constantly need to put DEI work at the center of our priorities as we have this year. But it is the student stories we've heard that continue to make that easy to do, because they are constantly re-inspiring our dedication as well as that of our system partners. A few other updates I'd like to share. As chair of our resolutions committee, we have been hard at work running webinars to assist students through our resolution writing process, and are glad to share that we had 28 resolutions this year on several new exciting topics. I also run our audit committee, and I'm happy to report we had a clean audit with no major findings, meaning that we are reporting our finances in a transparent way, something that is essential in the wake of starting to receive our AB 1504 funds. And lastly, I am extremely excited to announce the creation of our new statewide committee called the Internal Affairs Committee. This committee will finally create a place for our vice chairs to participate in our organization's work and have a bigger role alongside every other regional officer that already has a committee. With that, I'd like to end my update by thanking all our student leaders for the work they have put in this year, because COVID-19 has not made that easy. But we have stood resilient every step of the way, and this is the time to celebrate that together.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Catherine. My name is Emmanellis, and I am the current Vice President of Regional Affairs for the SSCCC. As it says here, I'm also a student at Bakersfield College in Region 5, and I'm the Vice President for my Student Body Association. And I started my career here in student government as a senator, and then I became the Vice Chair for Region 5, and then I became the Regional Affairs Director for Region 5, and I'm now the VPRA. And at BC, my major is philosophy. All right, so now to begin my Regional Affairs Committee update. So I want to start with an activation update. So we have some great numbers here. We have 105 out of 116 of our colleges activated. The number one goal of regional affairs directors and of the Regional Affairs Committee is to ensure that the voices and perspectives of all 116 of our colleges are heard and represented throughout the state. And these are great numbers, like I said. And I'd just like to shout out all of our regional affairs directors for all of the hard work and effort that I know they've put in to get their regions as active as possible. I'd also like to thank all the delegates for being as active in the regions as they are being. And another thing that we have done throughout this term was we created a regional policy template. This was actually one of the first projects that the Regional Affairs Committee took on. The purpose of this project was to have updated template policies that all the regions could kind of adopt as this kind of foundational policies for their region. This is because several region policies were extremely out of date, especially considering a new constitution and bylaws was passed at our last year's General Assembly. So this ad hoc created this template that was put together, and all of our regions have now adopted these policies. And the next thing that we did was we updated the delegate verification policy. This work group worked to ensure that the language of the policy was as straightforward and understandable as possible for the delegates. And another key change that this work group did to the policy was they implemented alternate delegates. So colleges can now verify both an official and an alternate delegate for their college, just like we did for General Assembly. And another thing that we did in October was we had a Get Out the Vote statewide webinar where several of our regional affairs directors and legislative affairs directors presented on the importance of the youth vote and provided information and resources regarding the voting process. We also had 4 guest speakers. We had Linda Vasquez, the Assistant Vice Chancellor, Lizette Mata, the Deputy Secretary of State, Lorena Gonzalez, an Assemblywoman, and Colin Fitzgerald, who is a student member on our Board of Governors. And we also amended the regional elections policy. There are a lot of small amendments that we made, but one bigger amendment that I'd like to note is the addition of candidate statements now. So if you are running for the election of a regional officer, you have the opportunity to submit a candidate statement and eligibility form prior to the actual election so that delegates can review that prior to your election, which could actually give you an advantage. So that's a amendment that we did there. And then the next thing that we did was we created a standardized regional elections timeline. So along with the amendments to the regional elections policy, we also created a standardized timeline. So this standardized timeline is going to be extremely helpful for the SSCCC, especially the regional affairs directors and the regional affairs committee in the future, as the elections process and order events will already have these required deadlines and dates for the regional affairs committee to meet. And the standardized timeline also ensures that there is a regional elections webinar held at least 1 month before actual regional elections every year, which I think will be really helpful to all of those interested in running for positions, just to get the information and resources out. Next slide here. Another thing that we did was we held a regional officer summit. We had two, actually. There was one in August and another one in early March. This is something brand new that the Regional Affairs Committee put together this year that we hope to become common practice in future years, because it was a very great success this year. So we decided to put this together because we wanted to have a coordinated meeting where we can have all of the regional officers come together in one meeting, because that very rarely happens. And so this meeting kind of served as this forum where all the regional officers came together and kind of updated each other on their respective committee work. And they also participated in a few breakout sessions, just to meet other regional officers that they never work with on a daily, weekly basis. And they also had another opportunity to talk about internal committee strategies, because all of our regional officers are chairs of their own committees. So that was a great opportunity for them to talk about best practices in that way. And we also held a regional elections webinar. This was on April 3rd. Like I said, this will be happening every year from now on, thanks to the standardized election timeline. So in this ad hoc, they did a great job at putting together this very effective webinar, and they discussed all of the different regional positions and just the regional elections process. So if you are interested in, or even just considering running for a regional position, that's great, first of all. And second of all, please watch the recording of this webinar that is posted on the SSCCC YouTube video or YouTube channel. You will get a great rundown of all of the job duties regarding those 5 positions. And you'll also get to hear directly from a regional affairs director, a legislative affairs director, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a communications officer, all on their experience in their position for the past year. And then next we have the region reorganization ad hoc that reorganized the region boundaries. You all heard about this at General Assembly. All the delegates actually voted on it. So once every 3 years, the SSCCC takes time to reorganize our region boundaries. And this year was the time for that task, so this ad hoc took it on. The ad hoc researched the distance, the cohesion, which colleges were in the same district, and also discussed with colleges and delegate themselves in order to come to solid conclusions on which colleges needed to be moved and reorganized within our regions. And so these were the moves that were approved at the 2021 General Assembly. And then the last thing I wanted to note that the Regional Affairs Committee did put together this term was the creation of a Free the Period advocacy toolkit. Earlier in the year, around September, the Regional Affairs Committee received a presentation from Auden Leung. She is they are a campaign manager for the Free the Period campaign. They presented to us on the issue of period poverty and how prevalent it is within the college and university system, especially within the community college system. So this was a really important issue that needed to be tackled by our RADs. And so after this presentation, 2 of our RADs came together and worked with Auden to put together this Free the Period advocacy toolkit for local student body associations to use to advocate for free period products on their college campus. And so please take advantage of this and email, myself if you have any questions. And the Regional Affairs Committee is also now helping the Legislative Affairs Committee with advocacy on Assembly Bill 367, which would enact the Menstrual Equity Act of 2021, which would require all public schools, kindergarten through higher education, to stock at least 50% of the school's restrooms with free menstrual products at all times. So this is a very exciting bill that we'd love to see all of you guys advocating for. So yeah, please take advantage of this toolkit and email me with any questions regarding anything in this presentation. And another thing that I'd like to note is that the main focus of the Regional Affairs Committee now is just kind of the transition between this term and next term. That being number one, our elections. So we're having, all the regions are having their elections for regional officers in May. So please keep that in mind if you are interested, and email me with any questions, or your regional affairs director for your region. We can all answer any questions that you may have. So that's our main focus, as well as the transition of delegates from this term's delegates to next year's delegates, because we don't want to have, we don't want to start off the year next year with a completely inactive region. We want to make sure that the delegates this year, if you are a delegate, please make sure you have a successor in mind, or make sure that you have some training planned to leave behind in case someone does take on your position for delegates. So that is our main focus now. And that's going to conclude my Regional Affairs Committee update. And I will go ahead and pass it on to our very own VPLA, Vice President of Legislative Affairs, Andrew Nichols. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Nichols, and I am a student at Folsom Lake College and the former director of Legislative Affairs at Folsom Lake College's Student Body Association. Right now, I'm the Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. I'm responsible for managing and executing the SSCCC's legislative priorities. I'm also a political science major. I'm really excited to be here talking to you today about what SSCCC is working on in terms of legislation and legislative affairs and advocacy. So, first and foremost, I'd love to share with you our sponsored bills. These are bills that the SSCCC has developed an idea for as a solution to a problem, found an author, a legislative author, some member or senator to author the bill, and then actually got them to carry the bill on the behalf of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, and really on behalf of you to address your issues. These issues range from student empowerment to basic needs to financial aid reform. And I'm going to cover them with you one by one. The first is Assembly Bill 337, authored by Assemblymember Jose Medina, who is the chair of the Assembly Higher Education Committee. This bill would provide the second student who serves on the California Board of Governors, that oversees the California community colleges, a vote. Currently, there are 2 student members who serve 2-year terms that are staggered. The student in their first year does not have a vote, whereas upon reaching the second year of their term, they do receive a vote. So right now on the Board of Governors, there's a student without a vote, whereas the student in the second year of their term has a vote. This bill would change that by giving both student members a vote, ultimately empowering them with the ability to affect decisions that are made, not on behalf of your college or even your district, but the entire system. We view this as critical to ensuring that the students have adequate voices in the decision-making process. Similarly, our next sponsored bill, Assembly Bill 1216, also accomplishes this in a similar way. This bill is authored by Assemblymember Rudy Salas. He's a legislator in the Central Valley. What this bill would do is empower the student member who serves on the Board of Trustees of their local district. These trustees sit on this board, and this board makes decisions on behalf of your district to serve the community's needs and the students' needs. What this bill would do would empower these students with the ability to impact decisions that are made on the board through motions and seconds, through attending closed session, by receiving compensation for their service on the board, and so on and so forth. The next bill also follows along a similar theme. Assembly Bill 1290, authored by Assemblymember Lee, would add 2 additional student commissioners to the California Student Aid Commission. Currently, there are 2 student commissioners, and those are appointed by this 4 segments of higher education in California on a staggered basis. This currently there is a UC appointed student commissioner and a CSU appointed commissioner. This year, it's our turn to appoint a student to the California Student Aid Commission. But what this means is that there aren't enough students on the Student Aid Commission. Granted, the 2 students who are still on the commission have been doing an amazing job, especially as it relates to financial aid reform, which we'll get to. But this would add more student voice and increase the ability for students to be able to contribute to change and leadership that's taking place on the commission. And that leads perfectly again into our next topic, which is financial aid reform. AB 1456, authored by Assembly members Jose Medina and Assembly member McCarty, who McCarty is the chair of the Assembly Budget Committee, Budget Sub 2 Committee on Education and Finance. This bill would comprehensively reform the state's financial aid programs, Cal Grant reform. Namely, the Cal Grant program is simply not designed for community college students, or really any student who begins their journey in a California community college. For community college students, the financial aid programs that exist are mainly an entitlement award, which a student only qualifies for if they meet certain age, income, and time out of high school requirements, as well as high school performance eligibility. But as you all know, the demographic of community college students is significantly changed from when the Cal Grant program was first established. Many of our students come to our system several years outside of high school or after high school. And 40% of our students are older than the age of 25. That makes the vast plurality of our students ineligible right out the gate. And what happens in our Cal Grant program is students who are not eligible for this award are then shunted into the competitive pool, really where financial aid goes to die. It is a lottery wherein only 3 out of 25 students in this competitive Cal Grant pool are lucky enough to get an award. It is a veritable lottery, and students can't predict when they'll get aid or even if they'll get aid, despite being eligible. And all this combines to a really important data point, which is that although nearly half of our students, 1 million of our students, of our 2 million students, qualify for the Board of Governors fee waiver, now known as the California College Promise Grant, which waives all tuition at a community college, only 5% of our students actually receive a Cal Grant. And there's unmet need of hundreds and thousands of students who don't get an award, but are eligible and should receive one. And so Cal Grant reform would reform this by taking out those artificial barriers that leave students behind, ensuring that every student, no matter who they are or their background, has access to financial aid. It would ensure and entitle every low-income student to receiving a Cal Grant award, and it would increase the award from what it's at currently by several $100s. Currently, the award is around $1,200 under the older proposal, but under this proposal, this would increase the financial aid award to $1,600, which is the equivalent of what it is today. So not only are we increasing eligibility, removing eligibility barriers, but we're also increasing access to many more students than otherwise might have been served, which is amazing. The state stands poised to serve over hundreds of thousands more students. Next, moving to basic needs, we realize that financial aid can't save every student. Some students have an incredible amount of need and really urgent needs that will make or break not only whether or not they can attend college, but their lives itself. Many students have urgent needs like needing to feed themselves, needing to have a safe place to sleep at night. And AB 775, authored by Assemblymember Berman, would establish a basic needs center at every single community college campus and a basic needs coordinator who will coordinate all resources and services on campus that might potentially help a student and provide access to them. Food, emergency housing vouchers, diapers, hygiene products, and connecting those students to CalFresh at a county level or Medi-Cal, ensuring that a student gets the full picture of what they might be eligible for and allows them to get access to it. Currently, community colleges aren't a place where the needs of students, the basic needs of students, are not recognized. We need to break down that stigma that our institutions shouldn't be serving students who have food and housing insecurity, and also break the stigma for that student themselves in accessing that resource. The student shouldn't have to go around campus proving 8 different times that they're poor. They should speak to one person and get the help they need and deserve. And then finally, Assembly Bill 1111, authored by Assemblymember Berman, who I should add is the chair of the committee on the Master Plan for Higher Education. This bill would establish a common course numbering system across the California community colleges. Currently, there are a number of courses all over the system that have the same learning outcomes, meet the same, qualify for the same general education or transfer requirements as similar courses like it, but have different numbers. They might have a 305 here, an 06B at another campus. Students should be able to look at a course and know for a fact that this satisfies the requirements I need it to satisfy and is the same at other colleges. Los Rios Community College District has pioneered this idea of common course numbering in California community colleges. It's a multi-college district made up of 4 colleges, and the district undertook a huge project to ensure that the courses that are the same have the same course numbers, which seems simple, but is a huge task for them to accomplish, and they've done it. And I have been a huge beneficiary of that. It's very easy for me to say that I need to take this one class, and I know for sure it's the same in each college. It's a huge weight off my shoulders in terms of trying to figure out which courses satisfy what requirements. So these bills, the SSCCC has taken upon themselves to work on, to sponsor, and we're trying to get them through the legislative process. But we need your help to do it. As student body associations and as students, as individual advocates, we need your help in submitting support letters and telling your local legislators that these bills are something that you want to see passed. We're doing our part to ensure that community colleges get the help they deserve and that are represented adequately. And we need you in your part in providing advocacy to get us across the finish line. I want to share a little more information with you. Again, our priorities are broad, and I've covered them. Student empowerment, ensuring that our students are at the decision-making tables, ensuring that our students' voices are heard at the Board of Governors, at your local district, and also at the California Student Aid Commission, which distributes aid to every community college student. These are the statewide issues that we are prioritizing. We know that our state, in our system, enrollment has declined by nearly 12% during a recession, normally our enrollment is actually higher. And so I actually almost think of that as being close to 14, 15%, which is huge. We need to ensure that the state is doing its part in getting students back in the classroom. We need to fund our students, invest in our students to ensure that we have an equitable economic recovery. Our California community colleges train our workforce, and they ensure that our state has an economic recovery to rebound. They're the engine that serves that. But if we don't have students going to colleges, the engine ceases to function, which is absolutely why we need to focus on these priorities to ensure that our system is taken care of. With that said, there are a number of other bills to watch as well. I will offer one, which is of also the utmost importance of SSCCC. Assembly Bill 940, authored by Assemblymember McCarty, would fund mental health services at every single community college campus. It would allocate $10 million to ensure that community college students have greater access to mental health counselors. And finally, I'll highlight in just saying that our Advocacy Day on April 14th was hugely successful, and you can find the recording of it on our website. We had all kinds of amazing thought leaders and speakers like Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kolonakis, Chancellor Eli Oakley of the California Community College System, Dr. Lande Ajose, Senior Policy Advisor, Higher Education Policy Advisor to Governor Newsom, and other leaders in our system. And with that, I will say thank you so much for listening. And again, we're doing our part to ensure that our system moves in the direction it should be going. We need your help to get it done. So thank you so much, and I'll pass it off to whoever's going next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tony, and I'm a student at Folsom Lake College, majoring in business administration and pre-law. I'm also the student trustee within the Los Rios Community College District and the vice president of finance for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. Some of the former roles I've had included being the Region 2 treasurer within the SSCCC. I was also the former student senate treasurer at my local SBA. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into the finance update for the state of the Senate. So just a couple of things that we worked on this year that was a really big accomplishment within the finance sector of the Student Senate, included updating the board financial policies. With AB 1504 funding coming in this coming year, something that was really important was preparation, which is something that I've been very focused on within my role as the vice president of finance. So first thing we did last fall was I started working with the finance committee. We met pretty much every month, and we just went over the financial code, the budget policy, travel policy, and annual audit process. We also wanted to be more transparent because of because we're getting AB 1504 funding coming in, we want to provide a policy as well in regards to the student representation fee. Just because this is such a big thing in our organization, it was something really important that we wanted to add within the policies we were creating. In addition to this, we've also been working on a regional financial policy that will help the treasurers within the regions know how to operate and how to oversee their finances, in addition to some processes we've added. So that's all recently been completed, and that's all moving forward. So we'll be ready for next year. So those are definitely some of the biggest things that we've been working on within the financial sector for both the board finance policies and the regional finance and fundraising committee. Some other things that we've done is recently we adopted our budget for the upcoming year, and this will be the first budget when we will receive the new AB 1504 funds. So that's something that was very exciting. So one thing I did was I met with Edie Adams, and we just created a draft budget. And some things that we added included the investment in the regions, professional development and trainings, in addition to General Assembly, the creation of an operation structure with new staff positions. That is a big thing that was added into the budget that we haven't seen before. Hiring new staff, we hired an additional 4 staff members. including our executive assistant who was recently hired on, in addition to 3 more that will be coming in through next year. So that's something that's very exciting. Scholarships and other resources for students being able to provide additional resources. And I want to go back to the investment in the regions portion. Previously, regions didn't receive funding from a statewide budget. Now they will all be receiving $5,000 to allocate in their budget. And so that's something that's very exciting. Overall, with AB 1504 funding coming in and this new budget that was recently approved at the March Board of Directors meeting, we are all prepped and ready to go for the upcoming year as we make the transition. Some other things that we've done that have been big accomplishments this year include the Region Finance and Fundraising Committee approving the first regional fundraiser since the establishment of the RFFC in 2019 and the regional fundraising policy in 2020. So this was, with the new policy, this was the first one that we've approved within our committee since it was established. It was hosted by Region 2. Shout out to the Region 2 treasurer. So that is something that's very exciting. We also have another fundraiser potentially coming forward as well. In addition to that, we have created a new regional budget process and worked with the treasurer, and we're currently working with the treasurers to develop regional budgets in preparation for next year's budget allocations. So in addition to the statewide budget, we are also, I'm working actively with the regional treasurers to ensure all the regions have their own budgets as well in preparation for next year so they know how to allocate that regional funding that they'll be getting, the $5,000 that I mentioned earlier. Overall, there have been a lot of really big accomplishment, a lot of restructuring within the finance sector of the SSCCC when it comes to policies, getting the new budget, all in preparation for AB 1504. So that is my update for the financial sector.
All right. Hi, my name is Brianna Ross, and I'm the Vice President of Communications. So a little bit about me is I'm a student at Irvine Valley College from Region 8, and I'm also the student body president for Irvine Valley College as well. I'm actually a former senator for the Physical Sciences and Technologies department as well, and my current major is public policy. So to get started with some updates, I'll just go over some of these accomplishments. So I think one of our biggest accomplishments has to be increased compliance and accessibility enhancements to the website so that we can ensure that all viewers are able to access our content and information from the website. We've also worked to revamp the newsletter graphics that we send out each month. So there's various sections where I create a graphic for the banner. So that just brings more attention and more spotlight to the various things that are on the newsletter. We've also increased social media following by about 250 followers just overall since I came into my position, and it continues to grow, so that's great. We've also created a regional communications committee charge within the communications committee so that the regions have a more direction that they can take and utilize the time that they have in the region communications committee to support the comms officers' efforts. Also, during my term, we had the first ever, as far as I'm concerned, the first ever communications committee retreat. So in this retreat, it was held more towards the beginning of the year, and all the comms officers had a chance to meet each other, share ideas, and also learn more about graphic design and increasing outreach in their regions. Next, I'll go over outreach and engagement. So we have had more active social media for all 10 regions. So there's all 10 of the regions have an Instagram account, and I've helped the comms officers to kind of maintain their accounts so that they can consistently put out different flyers, marketing, anything they want to share from their newsletter so that they can just have a wider reach with colleges and student body associations. And so that we could also have a way for delegates to be informed about any upcoming things that they should be aware of in the region. We've also worked to have more consistent branding in the SSCCC just in general. So when we would put out flyers or marketing or anything like that, we got to make sure it has a consistent feel and look just across all different things that we send out. I've personally helped with a lot of graphic support in other areas. So I've worked with the Legislative Affairs Committee to help them develop a flyer for advocacy in April. And I've also worked with the Regional Affairs Committee to develop marketing materials for the region election so that each region can put out the same flyers for their positions that they're advertising, because they'll all be having these elections soon. So it's helpful so that different colleges and also student body associations and students and delegates can see how they can get involved. And with that, we've also had more robust comms officer roles. So I've helped comms officers to kind of see where they can support their region holistically, just besides making newsletters and making social media posts. I've also helped them to see how they can support their RAD in regional activation and maintaining communications with their delegates so that they have a more tight-knit community, even in a virtual environment. Lastly, I'll just talk about how we've kind of organized this thing we use called a link tree. So a link tree is a single link, and you can put various links within that. So this is helpful for things like on Instagram, you can only put one link in the bio, but then if someone clicks on that, they can go and look at a variety of other links we put, such as with our elections coming up, we have the elections packet so that people interested can get more information. We also have the link so people can join our meetings, and so we can have a wider reach to members of the public that want to join. And we've also created a link tree within the link tree to hold all of the listservs for all the regions. So when delegates are told that they need to subscribe to their region listserv, we can just send them that and they can click on their region and subscribes. And so how the link tree is really helpful is that there's some metrics that they provide us. So you can see that there are 500 views that basically 500 viewers have been reached with the link tree. They've clicked on the link, and the links that they click within the link tree sums up to about 350. So once people actually visit the link tree, 350 clicks have been used on the various links within them. So it's working, and it's just one of these ways we can make our leadership in a virtual environment more present with the people so that they can click on the things that they want to, like our meetings, various documents that we want to show, and also just figuring out how to be more involved. Last but not least, connect with us. So we do a lot of social media stuff. We have our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook. Our Instagram is just SSCCC_official, and same for our Twitter. And our Facebook is Student Senate.
Thank you to the vice presidents for providing those updates. I appreciate every single one of you and all the work that you've done to best represent our students this year. And to the 2020-2021 Board of Directors, we couldn't have done all of this work without you. You have been instrumental in providing resources and being representative, and really responding to the needs of students over the course of the year. You know, over the past 2 years, the SSCCC has really put in a lot of work to become, or actually to strengthen their infrastructure, to really, you know, represent students the best. And it's really seen through the growth that we've had, through the outreach that we've had, through all the relationships that we've built. You know, this year specifically, we had 94 colleges that were present at our General Assembly, which is huge. And it's bigger than any year that we've had in the past. We have been supported by our professional staff. Our executive director, Julie Adams, has put in so much time and effort and work into this organization. And it's evident in the growth that we've seen. But we have new staff that's going to be coming on this year. And we're really looking forward to, you know, what that's going to provide our organization. The board of directors has really been able to focus on critical student needs because of these staff, and you know, and because of that growth. And we're really empowering students to engage with us in the legislative and in the governance arenas. With the addition of new funding, the $2 SRF fee, the board of directors is really planning for additional growth with a focus on grassroots advocacy, really trying to mobilize students. If we have 2.1 million students in our system, we can really get some stuff done and some work done. So we're really looking forward to that. and really branding the SSCCC as an organization that represents those students and how we're broadcasted to the rest of the world, really. So this is the 2020-2021 State of the Senate. I want to thank you all for tuning in. There are big things on the horizon for the Student Senate, and I very much look forward to seeing where this organization goes in the future years. Thank you so much. Have a great day.